Yeah.
Obviously, the big news over the last month or so, Aaron Rodgers finally ending up in Pittsburgh. But I want to know from maybe the perspective of a Mason Rudolph. Like, if you're the guy who was with the team, throughout the entire offseason program, through OTAs, and then Aaron Rodgers comes in, I mean, is there a little bit of animosity on his end, do you think, or would there be if you were in his shoes? But is there a little bit of awkwardness there maybe?
No, I don't think there's any awkwardness. I mean, of course, Mason is experienced enough now to know that the league and his situation and just the team in general, all that stuff can change on a dime. And he's enough of a pro and a veteran to know that. And I'm sure him, along with others in the facility, knew that Aaron was probably on his way to being a Steeler, and everyone was just doing a great job of participating and collaborating with the PR team and making sure that they didn't drop any information too soon. So I think Mason probably was a little bit more privy to some of this information before some of us were, probably making the transition for him a little easier once Aaron actually officially did sign.
Is there any sort of worries from the team standpoint that showing up before minicamp rather than being OTAs for, the install of a new offense, getting around new teammates? Is there any sort of concern there that he showed up a little bit later, or is that something where it's just like, these things are voluntary, it's not that big a deal?
Yeah, we can make a case for both ends of the spectrum, I think, in this. And I think for Aaron, we're going to give him a little bit of that runway to work with and say, well, he's got a ton of experience. He's a vet. He knows what he's doing. The question I kind of have is, there's just a little less time now to establish really what is the offense going to be like to start the season. And of course, we've seen Aaron with the New York Jets. As the year progressed last year, offense got better and better. It looked cleaner. It looked like it was more efficient, more aggressive. That being said, it was too little too late when they actually kind of found their groove as a passing attack. And with limited reps already, you just kind of hope that for whatever reason here in Pittsburgh and Arthur Smith, that they can start a little bit more on that aggressive note that he left in New York, and not slowly break into, what it is that they're actually trying to do. And that's the biggest thing. Every team right now, they have an idea of what they're trying to do or what they're going to maybe be in the season with the roster that they have. But that stuff does change over time as the season progresses. Nonetheless, you do get to that ultimate, all right, this is what our team is, through tons and tons of reps and experience with the guys that you have on the field. So, of course, yeah, that time frame has been a little shortened with Aaron's, signing here late.
Do you put a lot of substance into the fact where people are like, oh, okay, well, going from the Jets to the Steelers obviously is an upgrade in organization and whatnot. Is there anything to be had when it comes to that? Because we saw his former predecessor Brett Favre have a year in New York where it starts off pretty good and then ends bad, rather than starts off bad and then gets better. And then he goes to Minnesota, throws 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, leads them to the NFC Championship game. Is there any semblance of belief in your mind that the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers could have any bit of that similarities from what Favre did to what they can do this year?
Yeah, of course he's talented enough, like Brett, in that time frame of his career where he could still get it done that way. I think the best thing for Aaron and for the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base as a whole, Aaron, when he was with the New York Jets, was right below Woody Johnson. I mean, that was the hierarchy. It was Woody Johnson, it was Aaron, then it was the rest of the management and staff and all that fell below that. I think here, actually having a little bit stronger of a hierarchy with starting with Mike Tomlin, I think really does help Aaron Rodgers a lot, because I love the stories a year ago about, Robert Saleh, hey, we asked Aaron what he thought about this, about camp, the schedule, this and that. Mike Tomlin's not going to be asking Aaron about the schedule. Mike Tomlin will be saying, this is the schedule. This is how we do things in Pittsburgh. And, I'm sure he's going to give him some flexibility with some other things, some leeway. But other than that, we know who is running the show. We know how that looks time in and time out. And Mike Tomlin's not going to change, who he is for this one-off year because Aaron Rodgers is in the locker room.
What would you say that Aaron's numbers would have to be in terms of, if you just kind of put it on a blank slate and said, okay, if he throws for this amount of yards, this amount of touchdowns, keeps it below this line of interceptions for them to at least meet where they were last year, which was a 10-win team that got into the playoffs. What's the threshold there?
The threshold, let's see. So last year he threw for just under 4,000 yards. He was 28 TDs, so he's tied for 7th in the league, 11 interceptions. For him, I would say it's got to be around that 35 to 4,000 range again. And the TD stuff, I'm not really necessarily concerned about that being a high number in the 30s.
I'm not either.
I'm really more so concerned about just efficiency in the red zone for them. I think they're one of these football teams where when you get in the red zone, they're not designed to settle for field goals and then play from behind. They're a team where they got to score, put points on the board, allow your defense, and then put pressure on the opposing team by trying to be aggressive, by trying to keep up with you, and then let Aaron manage the game extremely well as the game is closing out, and let the defense kind of finish it up. So the TDs to me isn't much as far as like a number, but I think overall they got to finish like in the top 10 in red zone efficiency for them to really be like an aggressive playoff caliber football team that's contending. So that's really what it's all about, man. You just kind of want to survive, right? And that's the problem with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Of course, the first year couldn't get out of September, couldn't get out of the first damn drive. The second year, September was awful. October was awful. November started to kind of figure it out. And I think that's where teams like the Steelers, of course, the Bengals, each and every year, we're discussing that same thing. Well, if they would have played better in September and October, it's like, well, yeah, those games are important. So it goes back to your earlier question about OTAs and about the reps and all that stuff. That stuff does mean something. That process of elimination of getting rid of the stuff that that you're not good at anymore. We're going to refocus our energy here. We're going to highlight this player a little bit more. That's where I think for the Pittsburgh Steelers, got to win September and October. If you can do that, if you can get to at least 500, I think this team definitely has the right pieces in place and characters to where they can really intimidate some football teams late in the year.